You know, when you hear the words 3D and VR creation, what comes to mind? For a lot of us, it sounds incredibly complex, maybe a little intimidating, right? But what if I told you there's a tool that makes it feel less like rocket science and more like, well, playing with building blocks? Let's dive in.
Seriously, have you ever put on a VR headset, looked around, and had that little spark? That thought of, man, I wish I could build something in here. Not just play a game, but actually reach out and create your own models, your own worlds, right from scratch with your own two hands? It's a pretty powerful idea.
But then, of course, reality hits. You go online, you look up the professional 3D software, and bam, you're hit with this massive learning curve and an even bigger price tag. It's honestly enough to stop a fantastic idea right in its tracks.
Well, that's the exact barrier that Google decided they wanted to tear down. So let's talk about their solution, an application called Blocks.
Okay, so what is it exactly? To put it simply, Blocks is a VR app for 3D modeling, but its whole philosophy is built around simplicity. It's designed to strip away all the confusing, overwhelming stuff and just give you a core set of intuitive tools. It makes creating feel less like you're wrestling with software and more like, well, playing.
And here's the best part, the thing that really just smashes that barrier we were talking about. The price to get started with this awesome tool? It's $0. That's right, it is completely 100% free.
So who is this actually for? Let's start by looking at it from the perspective of an artist, or maybe just a casual creator who has an idea and wants to bring it to life. One user really put it perfectly. They called Blocks, and I'm quoting here, one of the best free VR apps available, and then said, the only limit is your imagination. I mean, that's a pretty powerful statement that just captures the whole potential of this thing.
So how does it do it? Well, the big thing is the interface is just incredibly intuitive. You're literally sculpting things with your hands in a 3D space, which just feels so much more natural than clicking a mouse on a 2D screen. It's widely seen as the perfect entry point for beginners, and it even empowers people who might say they're non-artistic to create some amazing things. In fact, after seeing what other people were making and sharing, the reviewer gave it a solid 9 out of 10.
Now look, no tool is perfect. The same reviewer mentioned they wished for more in-depth tutorials or a few extra features, maybe some custom music or more environments. But even with that little wish list, the final verdict was crystal clear. It is a must download.
Okay, so it's great for artists, but what about a totally different kind of creator? Let's switch gears completely and look at this from a developer's point of view. How does Blocks fit into a technical workflow for, let's say, an aspiring game developer?
So get this. This quote comes from a developer who is right in the middle of learning C#, Unity, and Blender. And their reaction after trying Blocks for the first time was just pure amazement at how much power was packed into such a simple toolset.
So here was their workflow. They would model their game assets right inside VR, pulling and pushing the geometry around with all the fundamental tools, vertices, edges, and faces. Then they just export the model as a standard .obj file and pull it straight into a professional program like Blender.
And here's the absolute killer feature for any developer. When they imported that model into Blender, all the materials and colors they had applied inside Blocks transferred over perfectly. No remapping, no extra fussy work needed. That seamless integration is a massive time saver and a huge win.
So who is Blocks for? It really is for both. For the artist, it's this intuitive, creativity-sparking tool that's just so easy to get started with. And for the developer, it's a surprisingly powerful modeling tool with that amazing Blender export, making it perfect for creating game props or even entire levels.
All of this really brings us to a pretty simple conclusion. If you've ever had even a tiny flicker of interest in creating something in 3D, Blocks really is your ideal starting point.
One review just summed it up so perfectly. This app is the perfect starting point for anyone interested in creating 3D objects. It's more than just a tool, it's an open door. It removes those technical and financial roadblocks and basically just invites you to come on in and start making stuff.
So the only question that's really left is, with a tool that's this accessible, this powerful, and completely free, what are you going to create first?